Om Shanti. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to another Yoga Small Talk, and we continue with 7 minutes Bhagavad Gita a day. We were reading, from chapter 6, the Yoga of Meditation, and we read verses 5 and 6. We will read them again. 5. One should raise oneself by oneself alone. Let not one lower oneself. For the self alone is the friend of oneself, and the self alone is the enemy of oneself. 6. The self is the friend of the self, of him by whom the self has been conquered by the self. But to the unconquered self, this self stands in the position of an enemy, like an external foe. So, we were saying, just before we ended the previous teaching, that verse 5 ends in a seeming contradiction. It tells, for the self alone, self with capital S, is the friend of oneself, and the self, again with capital S, alone, is the enemy of oneself. So how can the same thing be my friend and my enemy? Verse 6 explains it. The self is the friend of the self, of him by whom the self has been conquered by the self. Tricky English, but let's unpack this. So the self, capital S, here, remember, we are talking the yoga of meditation. So we are talking about the meditative mind, the higher mind. So the higher mind is the friend of the self, of the individual, because we are still in the realm of duality, of him by whom the self, the personal self, has been conquered by the self, capital S. So once through befriending our higher mind, how? Cultivating virtues and eradicating vices. There is a very, very beautiful book of Swami Shivananda, How to Cultivate Virtues and Eradicate Vices. In other words, how to become the best friend of your higher mind. A higher mind, we will see later on in chapter 16, the divine and the demonical, what are their qualities. Our higher mind is very virtuous. So once we manage to overcome all those vices, all those qualities of the lower mind, anger, greed, lust, jealousy, we all know them, which bring forth endless desires about things that we want to have and things that we want to get out of our lives. So once we have overcome the lower mind, conquered it, if you will, in the language of this verse, through cultivating virtues, through befriending our higher mind, then our higher mind appears to be our best friend, because we know that it can take us to better places than where the lower mind took us. So once we taste the bliss of virtues, the bliss of cultivating divine qualities, then they become our best friends. In Raja Yoga, again, the basis for all the ladder of Ashtanga Yoga that is described in the Raja Yoga Sutra is yamas and niyamas, the moral code. The moral code is the basis for everything. So remember, we're still talking here about the yoga of meditation, but Lord Krishna is still telling us it's not just about where to get your focus point and how to walk with your breath. You have to cultivate virtues and eradicate vices. There is no way around it. You have to befriend your higher mind by cultivating divine qualities and let go of your lower mind, which is full of vices. But to the unconquered self, this self stands in the position of an enemy, like an external foe. So imagine that we come to a person who is still fully established in desires, who has only a worldly point of view, and we tell him, let go of all those desires. They are not good for you. This person will say, this person is crazy. Maybe they are jealous. Maybe they're just otherwise crazy. Why they want to interfere with my ability to improve my life? Take another case. Someone hurt us. Someone hurt us badly. And we are still very, very, very much operating through anger and revenge and all those things. And somebody comes and says, this person who has hurt you is your best teacher. You should appreciate what they've done for you. You will say, you crazy? If I will let this person go, they will come and hurt me again. By saying that I should let this person go, you are my worst enemy. So this is how our upper mind all of a sudden seems to be our worst enemy, because it prevents us from following our vices. And we don't follow our vices because we want to be mean, because we want to become demonical, but because we think that this is the right way to go. I want to have a better life. I think I'll have more possession. This will make me happier. So if someone comes and say, you should give your possession away, I will say, this is my enemy. He's interfering. This is why it is said the teacher should take us very, very, very gradually, very gradually, until we reach and we are able to see it. And then, as we befriend our higher mind, we start seeing how bliss, true bliss, materializes in our life. And we will just read the conclusion of those verses in the next talk and continue with the next teaching. So please join us. Om Shanti.